only 20 to 25% people in India are financially literate. If I flip the data, 75 to 80% people in India are not financially literate. You can imagine how vulnerable they are to the risks which are affiliated to the world of finance, or shall I say, to the world of wealth. Once again, as you're aware, this channel has been created for my English viewers, English subscribers, who have specifically sent the request on my Hindi channel, which is called the Sharath Koli Official, to produce or create content in English, where I talk about economics, business, finance, taxation, stock markets, anything which is related to your money, which is related to your income, and which is related to your wealth creation. My idea is that you understand these complicated topics in a very simple manner, which can probably lead to your wealth creation or enhancement of your income. Well, this is called the Sharath Koli Show. If you like the contents of this particular production, please do subscribe by pressing the bell icon. Also share and comment. Well, that will serve as a big motivation for me. So today I'm going to talk about how financial literacy can really cripple a person. I have seen some of the most educated people in this country not being financially literate. They've had degrees from some of the best universities and colleges in India and around the world, but they were not found to be financially literate. And you know what this did? This took away the opportunity of wealth creation from them for their entire life. They were not able to save, they were not able to invest, they were not able to understand the basics of finance, which led to a situation where their income was good, but the wealth they created at the end of the day, or shall I say at the end of their career for that matter, was hardly anything. Whereas if they were financially literate, they would have done wonders in their life in terms of leading a wealthy life. So I'm going to list out about 10 points which are fallouts of not being financially literate. And you'll be surprised, only 20 to 25% people in India are financially literate. If I flip the data, 75 to 80% people in India are not financially literate. You can imagine how vulnerable they are to the risks which are affiliated to the world of finance, or shall I say, to the world of wealth. Or shall I say that how many opportunities they miss during their lifetime. Let me list out for you. I've scribbled about 10 points which come as a fallout of your not being financially literate. And the very first fallout is that it leads to a very poor money management. When you get your income, you're not able to manage it. So what happens is, I've seen some of the very high income earners ending up spending the entire amount, not being able to save, because there's no financial planning. They've never done financial planning. They are not aware of financial planning. Fine, they know how much they earn. They know how to spend. But then financial planning is far more than earning and spending. And if that financial planning is missing, obviously, this is going to keep you away from your goal of becoming wealthy, for that matter. The second fallout, it leads you to a debt trap. You know, I've seen people borrowing and borrowing, creating EMIs on their head, one after the other. And then the EMIs and the debt trap takes you in its grip to an extent that despite your high income, you remain in financial stress. So a high debt trap for a person having a decent income is an outcome of being, or rather I would say not being financially literate. So please keep that second fallout in mind. Let's see the third fallout. Little or no savings. That either you'll save very little or you'll not save anything. I've seen dozens and dozens of people over my career span of about 36 years with literally no savings. Whatever they earned, they spent. So, or the savings are so minuscule, they are so less that it's good for nothing. I mean, that saving can't lead them to anywhere. Another point which is related to this one is saving but not investing. That is, some people do save, but then the money lies idle in the savings account. At best, what they will do is a fixed deposit in the bank, which I think is a very lazy form of investment, which gives you net of tax return of about 5.5%. That's it. You don't even beat inflation. Forget about creating wealth by making that investment. So that's another fallout. Let's see fallout number 4. Missed investment opportunities. There's so many opportunities during one's life cycle. There are phases in various asset classes, stocks, metals, other kinds of investments in real estate. So many opportunities which come your way. There are phases in various investment cycles and asset class cycles and your life cycle overall where there is an opportunity where you can make big money. And that phase lasts for 2, 3, 4 years, sometime 1 year or whatever. Because of lack of financial literacy, you tend to miss those opportunities. And it is those opportunities which have made most of the people wealthy. That phase of 2, 3 years in life, when you sit back and recollect, it was during that time that I made money. Thereafter, it's just been normal income. But that one phase led to a bumper kind of an income. So I think lack of financial literacy makes you miss those opportunities. Please make note. Let's move to the next point. Poor credit scores. Well, people who are not financially literate, because they are not able to do their financial planning, because they end up in a debt trap, they also witness falling credit score. So what does falling credit score mean? Because tomorrow if they have to go and borrow or urgently take a credit card or get into any kind of credit arrangement for that matter, that poor credit score, just because of lack of financial literacy, will deprive you of borrowing. And sometimes these borrowings can be very, very urgent. They could be very necessary. The credit card or the credit arrangement that you want from somebody, it takes you by a rude surprise that my credit score is bad just because I wasn't planning myself properly or just because I was not financially literate. Let's move on to the next fallout. Financial stress. Believe me, not being financial or financially literate causes a lot of financial stress because you don't plan. So what happens? You end up spending more. You end up additional income opportunities. You don't create wealth for yourself. You are at a point in your life where you do need certain amount of wealth. But because you miss those opportunities, you end up being stressful on finance in your life most of the times. Well, the time when your income and expenditure match, you're fine. But that's never always the case. There are times when your income overflows or your outflows far exceed your inflows. That's when you realize that had I saved, had I been aware of more of finance, I would probably not have landed in this situation. So financial stress or a cause of stress is lack of financial literacy, a huge fallout, I would say. And ask the people who've gone through it in case you haven't had or you were lucky enough to not go through that yet. But ask the people who've gone through that. And I can tell you that if that still remains missing, you will face a situation at some point where financial stress is going to catch up on you because of lack of financial literacy. Let's move on to the next fallout. Retirement insecurity. Eventually everyone has to retire at some point. And for retirement, you do need money. You can't keep working all your life. You got to have a decent amount of fund or corpus which can keep you going in the years when you're not actively involved in work, when you can't work, or you may be medically ill. Sooner than your retirement, then what happens? It's the wealth, or shall I say the wealth creation, which keeps you going during that phase. And with retirement, this is the last phase of life anyway. There is no chance of your getting into an income stream in the years to come because each passing year will take you closer to the position where you won't be able to work. So that's where financial literacy matters. If a person is financially literate, you can foresee your expenses. You can foresee your needs and requirements in those difficult years. And if there is no financial literacy, obviously you are found wanting in the years when you need the money the most and the time when you cannot work. Let's move to the next financial stress. Greater vulnerability to frauds. There's so many financial frauds happening every other day. So many of them. I have seen people who are not financially literate. They are falling prey to these frauds far more than people who are financially literate. I won't say that people who are financially literate has or a person like this has never faced the situation of a fraud. But then your financial literacy helps you step out of that situation, helps you foresee that somebody is trying to, take you for a ride. So financial literacy also keeps you away from financial frauds as far as possible. I won't say that you're completely immune, because the tricksters, they keep devising new methods and new techniques. But then it does keep you away from frauds if you are financially literate. Let's move on to the next portion, next fallout, shall I say. Limited financial independence. Now, what is limited financial independence? That is, you want to be financially independent after a certain time. You don't want to be depending on certain income streams, which are regular income streams, which come by way of your working regularly. You want that there should be money working for you on its own. They say in finance or investments, if you want your money to work for you, you'll have to work for your money first. And one of the things you can do for you to be working for your money is financial literacy. You can only work for your money if you're financially literate. If you're not financially literate, it'll be very hard for you to work for your money, and then in turn the money will not work for you. So financial independence is a goal which is best achieved if you're financially literate. Let's see one more fallout, and this is very important and very emotional as well. It leads to intergenerational problem. I've seen the parents who are not financially literate. They are also not able to educate and pass on that particular skill, shall I say, or that particular field of knowledge to their children. Which means that generations together, unless of course the child has gone into finance, has gone into hardcore commerce, and has educated himself or herself, that's a different story. But vis-a-vis the genes, the inheritance which comes from the parents to the children. So I've seen non-financially literate parents end up having non-financially literate children as well, which means you pass on those shortcomings, those deficiencies, the lack of awareness of finance to your children as well, because it's never spoken of in the home. Well, children only learn what they listen, especially when they're young. Obviously, later they can learn from their friends, from their schools, from their colleges, from the peers. But then the first educators of children are the parents. And whatever they listen, they inherit, they learn, they adapt, they practice. But if the parents are not financially literate, you find the children, most of the cases, the children also inherit the same, which means that the problems relating to financial literacy, you are actually passing on to the generations to come. So my advice, and the reason why I came across to you today, and the reason why I'm dissecting this whole subject to you today, is to ensure that if you're listening to me, if you're part of this video, one of the subscribers, followers, viewers, please ensure that you do something about getting financially literate. And mind you, there's no age to do it. It's not that you're out of the college, you're out of the school, so I've left this behind now. There is no chance of my getting, in the era of information on internet, on YouTube, across so many platforms, it's very easy that while sitting at home, and what is financial literacy? Knowing about incomes, knowing about financial planning, knowing about insurance, knowing about banking, knowing about investments, knowing about various asset classes, knowing about compounding, knowing about interest rates, and so on and so forth. This is all that you need to know to make your life easy and to make you wealthy. Again, with a humble request, if you like the content of this video, please do subscribe. Until I connect with you in the next one. Namaskar.